The check bounced. Again. Zara Thompson stared at the red stamp across the payment slip, her heart sinking deeper than the Grand Canyon. 27 years old, and she was watching her grandmother's legacy crumble like old cookies in her trembling hands. The Sunshine Community Center, the place where she'd learned to read, where her grandmother had fed hungry kids for 30 years, where hope lived in every corner, was going to be demolished in exactly 7 days. She sat in the cold metal chair outside the bank manager's office, watching people in expensive suits walk past her like she was invisible. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, making everything look harsh and unforgiving. Her worn jeans and faded sweater felt even more shabby in this place where money talked and dreams died. "Miss Thompson," the bank manager's voice cut through her thoughts like ice. "Mr. Sterling will see you now." Nathan Sterling. Even his name sounded rich and powerful. Zara had never met him, but she knew his reputation. At 32, he owned half the city's real estate and had a heart made of solid gold, except the gold was locked away in a vault he never opened. People said he was handsome in that dangerous way that made smart women do stupid things. They also said he crushed small businesses like grapes under his Italian leather shoes. The office door opened, and Zara's breath caught in her throat. Nathan Sterling was tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair that looked like he'd run his fingers through it and skin that spoke of mixed heritage, part Italian, part something exotic that made his green eyes pop like emeralds. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her rent, and when he looked at her, she felt like a mouse being studied by a very elegant cat. "Sit," he said, not bothering with pleasantries. His voice was deep, with just a hint of an accent she couldn't place. Zara remained standing. "I prefer to stand, thank you." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe or amusement. "Suit yourself. Though you might want to sit for what I'm about to tell you. Just say what you need to say." Her voice was steadier than she felt. Nathan walked around his massive desk, each step calculated and smooth. He was the kind of man who never hurried, because he knew the world would wait for him. "Your community center owes my bank $400,000. The building sits on prime real estate that I want for a new shopping complex. The center helps over 200 families," Zara said, lifting her chin. "Kids do homework there after school. Elderly people get meals. It's not just a building, it's a lifeline." "It's a business." Nathan's tone was flat, emotionless, "and business is failing. Give us more time. I can raise the money." "How?" He leaned against his desk, crossing his arms. "You work 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. Your fundraising events bring in maybe $5,000 on a good day. Face reality, Miss Thompson. You're drowning, and I'm not throwing you a life preserver." The words hit her like slaps. Everything he said was true, which made it hurt worse. There has to be another way. Nathan studied her for a long moment, his green eyes moving from her face down to her hands, which were clenched into fists at her sides. "Actually, there is." Hope bloomed in her chest like a flower after rain. "What?" "Marry me." The words hung in the air between them like a bomb that hadn't exploded yet. Zara blinked, sure she'd heard wrong. "What did you just say?" "Marry me? 1 year, contract marriage, nothing real about it. In exchange, I'll pay off your debts and fund your community center for the next 5 years. "You're insane." Zara took a step back, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. "I'm practical." Nathan pushed off from the desk and moved closer to her. "I need a wife to inherit my grandfather's trust fund. The will states I must be married for at least 1 year to receive the money. You need financial security. It's a simple business arrangement." "Marriage isn't business." "Everything is business, Miss Thompson. Love is a luxury people like you and I can't afford." "People like me," anger flared in her chest, hot and bright. "You don't know anything about me. I know you're desperate. I know you've been lying awake at night wondering how to save that crumbling building. I know you'd do anything to keep your grandmother's memory alive." Nathan's voice was quiet now, almost gentle, which somehow made his words more devastating. Zara felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back furiously. She wouldn't cry in front of this man. "Why me? You could marry anyone. I need someone who won't fall in love with me. someone who sees this as purely transactional. You hate me already, which makes you perfect. I don't hate you. The words slipped out before she could stop them. Nathan smiled, and it was like watching ice crack. You will. Zara wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling cold despite the warm office. What exactly would this marriage involve? You'd live in my house, attend social functions as my wife, play the part convincingly. In return, your community center gets a new lease on life, literally and figuratively. And after the year, clean divorce, you walk away with enough money to run your center for years. You'll never have to see me again. It was a devil's bargain, and they both knew it. Zara thought about the kids who came to the center after school, their faces lighting up when she helped them with homework. She thought about Mrs. Garcia, who was 73 and got her only hot meal of the day at the center. She thought about her grandmother, who had built something beautiful from nothing and trusted Zara to keep it alive. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow at noon. Nathan walked back to his desk and sat down, effectively dismissing her. The demolition crew arrives at 1 p.m. Zara's hands shook as she reached for the door handle. You're a monster. Yes, Nathan said without looking up from his papers. But I'm a monster with money, and right now that's what you need. As Zara walked out of the building, she felt like she was moving through a nightmare. The sunny afternoon felt too bright, the sounds of traffic too loud. People passed her on the sidewalk, going about their normal lives while hers had just been turned upside down. She found herself at the community center without remembering the walk there. The building looked tired, with its faded brick and windows that needed washing, but inside she could hear laughter and voices. Life. Hope. Miss Zara, 7-year-old Carlos ran up to her, his backpack bouncing. Look what I drew. He held up a picture of a house with stick figures in front of it. That's my family, he said proudly. And that's you, because you're part of our family too. Zara knelt down to his level, her heart breaking and mending at the same time. It's beautiful, Carlos. Are you sad, Miss Zara? You look sad. She touched his cheek gently. Just thinking about grown-up things, nothing for you to worry about. But as Carlos ran back to his friends, Zara knew she was lying. There was everything to worry about. In less than 24 hours, she had to make a choice that would change her life forever. Marry a man she barely knew, a man who saw her as nothing more than a business transaction, or watch everything she loved disappear. She thought about Nathan's green eyes, cold as winter frost. She thought about his words, "You'll hate me eventually." Maybe he was right, maybe she would, but maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow, she would give Nathan Sterling her answer. Tonight, she would say goodbye to the life she'd known and prepare for whatever came next. Because sometimes, when you're drowning, you have to grab whatever rope gets thrown to you, even if the person holding it might pull you under instead of saving you. Zara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her tiny apartment, staring at the ceiling and listening to her neighbors argue through the thin walls. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Nathan Sterling's face, heard his voice saying, "Marry me," like he was asking her to pass the salt. At 6 a.m., she gave up on sleep and made coffee with shaky hands. The morning news was full of stories about the city's economic problems, about small businesses closing and communities struggling. It felt like the universe was mocking her. Her phone rang at 7:30, unknown number. Hello. Miss Thompson, Nathan Sterling, I trust you've made your decision. His voice was crisp and businesslike, like he was calling to confirm a dinner reservation instead of demanding an answer to the most insane proposal in history. It's barely dawn, Zara said, gripping the phone tighter. I'm an early riser, so. Zara closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Yes. Silence stretched between them, then. Yes, what? Yes, I'll marry you. The words tasted bitter in her mouth. Good, my lawyer will have the contracts ready by noon. Meet me at Sterling Tower, 42nd floor. Contracts. Plural. Marriage contract and prenuptial agreement. This is a business arrangement, Miss Thompson. Everything needs to be documented. The line went dead. Zara stared at her phone, wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Sterling Tower was exactly what she'd expected, all glass and steel, reaching toward the sky like it was trying to pierce heaven. The lobby was marble and chrome, filled with people in expensive clothes who moved with purpose and confidence. Zara felt like an imposter in her best dress, which she'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt eternal. When the doors opened, she was greeted by a receptionist who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Miss Thompson, Mr. Sterling is waiting in Conference Room A." Conference Room A was bigger than Zara's entire apartment. Nathan sat at the head of a long table, still wearing a black suit, though this one had thin silver stripes. He looked up when she entered, his green eyes scanning her from head to toe. "You're late." "I'm exactly on time." "In my world, on time is late." Nathan gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit." This time, Zara did sit. The table was so wide she felt like they were in different time zones. Between them lay two thick stacks of papers. "Marriage contract," Nathan said, tapping the first stack. "Prenuptial agreement," he indicated the second. "Read everything carefully." Zara picked up the marriage contract and immediately felt overwhelmed. The language was dense and formal, full of whereas and heretofore and other legal terms that made her head spin. "Can you explain this in normal English?" Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You'll live in my house for 1 year. You'll attend social functions as my wife. You'll behave in a manner befitting Mrs. Nathan Sterling. In return, I'll pay off all debts associated with the Sunshine Community Center and provide $5 million for its continued operation." "$5 million," Zara's voice came out as a squeak. "I don't do anything small, Miss Thompson." She kept reading, trying to focus despite the shock. "It says here I can't work during the marriage." "Correct, being my wife is a full-time job. But I love my work at the center." "You can volunteer there, but you can't be employed." "My wife doesn't need to work." The possessive way he said "my wife" made something flutter in her stomach, not entirely unpleasant, which alarmed her. "What about my apartment?" "You'll move into Sterling Manor this weekend. All your belongings will be transported and stored. You've already arranged movers." Nathan's smile was sharp. "I was confident you'd accept." Arrogant didn't begin to cover it. Zara turned to the prenuptial agreement, and her jaw dropped. "According to this, if I break the contract early, I owe you $10 million. Insurance policy, I need to ensure you'll honor the full year." "What if you break the contract?" "I won't." "But what if you do?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Then you get $50 million, and the community center becomes yours outright." Zara's pen slipped from her fingers. $50 million. "I told you I don't do anything small." She stared at him, trying to understand. "Why are you doing this, really?" "I need a wife to inherit my grandfather's money. You need money to save your community center. It's mutually beneficial." "But why not just find a real wife? Someone you actually like?" Something dark flashed across Nathan's face. "I don't believe in love, Miss Thompson. It's a weakness I can't afford." "Everyone believes in love." "Not everyone." Nathan reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. "We'll need to make this look convincing." He opened the box, revealing a ring that probably cost more than most people's houses. It was a perfect solitaire diamond, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light and threw rainbows across the table. "I can't wear that," Zara whispered. "You can and you will. People will be watching us, judging whether our marriage is real. Details matter." "What if I lose it?" "It's insured." Nathan stood and walked around the table. Zara's pulse quickened as he approached, his expensive cologne filling her senses. He was tall enough that she had to tilt her head back to look at him. "Give me your hand." "Nathan." "Give me your hand, Zara." The way he said her name, soft and low, made her insides turn to liquid. She extended her left hand, trying not to notice how much smaller it looked in his. His fingers were warm and surprisingly gentle as he slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" "I know a lot of things about you, Zara Thompson." Nathan didn't let go of her hand immediately. Your grandmother was Rose Thompson. She started the community center in 1987 after your grandfather died. You moved in with her when you were 8 because your parents couldn't take care of you. You graduated high school as valedictorian but couldn't afford college. You've been running the center since Rose died 5 years ago. Zara pulled her hand back, disturbed by how much he knew. You had me investigated. I research all my business partners. Is that what I am, a business partner? Nathan's green eyes were unreadable. For the next year, you're my wife. The word wife hung between them like a live wire. Zara looked down at the ring on her finger, its weight strange and foreign. When? She asked. Friday, small ceremony, just our lawyers as witnesses. We'll have a larger reception next month for appearances' sake. Friday? That's 3 days away. Is there a problem? Yes, Zara thought. 1,000 problems. But she thought about Carlos and his drawing, about Mrs. Garcia and her daily meals, about all the people who depended on the community center. No problems. Nathan returned to his seat and pushed the contracts toward her. Sign here, here, and here. Zara picked up the pen, her hand trembling slightly. The documents felt heavy, significant. Signing them would change everything. Any final questions? She looked up at Nathan, trying to read something, anything in his expression. Will you be a good husband? The question seemed to surprise him. I'll honor the contract. That's not what I asked. Nathan was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, I'll try not to make you miserable. It wasn't a romantic declaration, but something in his voice made her think he meant it. Zara signed her name on all 3 contracts, each signature feeling like a small death and a small birth at the same time. Congratulations, Nathan said, gathering the papers. You're almost Mrs. Sterling. Congratulations yourself, you're almost stuck with me for a year. Nathan's laugh was short and sharp. We'll see who gets stuck with whom. As Zara left Sterling Tower, the ring caught the afternoon sunlight and sent sparkles dancing across her vision. In 3 days, she would marry a man she barely knew. In 3 days, her old life would be over and her new life would begin. She thought about fairy tales, about princes and princesses and happily ever after. But this wasn't a fairy tale. This was a business arrangement with a man who didn't believe in love. The question was, did she? Sterling Manor sat on 5 acres of perfectly manicured lawn like a fortress made of limestone and glass. Zara stared at it through the car window, her stomach doing gymnastics routines she didn't know were possible. The house, no mansion, was easily 10 times the size of her apartment building, with wings that stretched in different directions and windows that gleamed like watchful eyes. Impressive, isn't it? The driver, a kind older man named James, caught her eye in the rearview mirror. Been with the Sterling family for 15 years. Mr. Nathan's grandfather built this place back in the 1960s. It's very, Zara searched for a word that wasn't terrifying, grand. Mr. Nathan's been living here alone since his grandfather passed 3 years ago. Might be nice for him to have some company. The car crunched to a stop on the circular driveway. Zara's belongings, 2 suitcases and 3 boxes, looked pathetic next to the mansion's imposing entrance. James helped her carry everything to the front door, which opened before they could knock. Nathan stood in the doorway wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater that should have made him look casual and approachable. Instead, he looked like a model advertising expensive weekend wear. His hair was slightly messed up, like he'd been running his fingers through it, and for a second Zara caught a glimpse of something almost human in his expression. Right on time, he said, stepping aside to let her enter. The foyer was bigger than the community center's main room, with a ceiling that soared 2 stories high and a chandelier that probably cost more than most people's yearly salary. Marble floors reflected everything in soft, elegant patterns, and a curved staircase swept upward like something from a movie. This is where I live, Zara's voice echoed in the vast space. This is where we live, Nathan corrected. For the next year. A woman in her 50s appeared from a side hallway, wiping her hands on an apron. She had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. This is Alina, Nathan said. She manages the household. Alina, meet Zara, my wife. The word seemed to stick in his throat. Alina's face lit up with genuine warmth. Mrs. Sterling, how wonderful to finally meet you, Mr. Nathan told us so little about you. We were all dying of curiosity. Us? Zara looked around. James, who drove you here. Margaret, our part-time gardener. And cook Roberto, though he only comes for dinner parties. Mostly it's just me rattling around this big old house with Mr. Nathan. Alina's been here since I was 12, Nathan said, and there was affection in his voice Zara hadn't heard before. She practically raised me. Alina blushed. Oh, stop. You were already practically grown up by then, just needed someone to make sure you ate vegetables. Still do, Nathan muttered, which made Alina laugh. Watching them together, Zara saw a different side of Nathan, softer, more human. It made her chest feel tight in a way she didn't want to examine. Let me show you to your room, Nathan said, lifting her suitcases like they weighed nothing. They climbed the curved staircase, Zara's hand trailing along the smooth banister. The second floor was a maze of hallways lined with artwork that probably belonged in museums. Nathan led her to the far end of the east wing and opened a door. This is you. The room was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, and the late afternoon light painted everything in golden tones. The bed was easily king-sized, covered in cream-colored linens that looked impossibly soft. There was a sitting area with a fireplace, a writing desk by the window, and doors that led to what appeared to be a walk-in closet and private bathroom. It's beautiful, Zara said, setting down her single box of books. The closet is fully stocked, Nathan said, not meeting her eyes. I had my stylist select appropriate clothing. If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, let Alina know. Zara opened the closet door and gasped. It was the size of her old bedroom, filled with clothes she could never afford in a lifetime. Dresses, blouses, pants, shoes, even pajamas, everything in her size, everything beautiful and expensive. You can't just buy me a whole wardrobe, she said. I need you to look the part. My wife wouldn't shop at discount stores. The words stung even though they were probably true. What's wrong with discount stores? Nathan ran a hand through his hair, making it stick up at odd angles. Nothing. But people will be watching us, judging whether our marriage is real. They'll notice if you're not dressed appropriately. Appropriately for what? For someone who married Nathan Sterling. The arrogance was back, but Zara thought she heard something else underneath it. Uncertainty maybe, or loneliness. Where's your room? She asked. Nathan pointed down the hallway. Master suite, other end of the house. Good, the word came out sharper than she intended. I mean, that's probably best. For privacy. Agreed. They stood there for a moment, the awkwardness thick as fog. Zara fidgeted with her wedding ring, which she was still getting used to wearing. We should establish some ground rules, Nathan said finally. Okay. This marriage is for show only. We'll be civil in public, but our private lives remain separate. You have free run of the house and grounds, but my home office is off limits. We'll eat dinner together most nights. Alina insists on that, and you'll accompany me to social functions as needed. How many social functions? 2 or 3 per week, usually. Charity galas, business dinners, cultural events. The kind of things my wife would be expected to attend. My wife, there was that flutter again, the one Zara didn't want to acknowledge. What about the community center? You can volunteer there during the day, but you can't hold an official position or draw a salary. As far as the outside world knows, you're a devoted wife who does charity work in her spare time. Devoted wife, Zara repeated. How devoted am I supposed to seem? Something flickered in Nathan's eyes. Convincingly devoted. We'll need to be affectionate in public. Affectionate how? Hand-holding, occasional kisses, the kind of touches that suggest we're actually married. Heat crept up Zara's neck at the thought of Nathan's lips on hers. Just for show. Just for show, he agreed, but his voice was rougher than before. Any other rules? Nathan was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at the gardens. Don't fall in love with me. The words hit her like a slap. Excuse me. It's not a rule exactly, more like advice. This is temporary, Zara, don't forget that. Trust me, she said, anger flaring, that won't be a problem. But even as she said it, she wondered if she was lying. There was something about Nathan that got under her skin, made her want to understand the man behind the arrogant facade. The way he'd spoken to Alina, the gentleness in his voice, it suggested there was more to him than he wanted the world to see. Dinner's at 7, Nathan said, heading for the door. Alina will show you around the house tomorrow. Nathan. He turned back, one hand on the doorframe. Why did you really choose me? And don't say it's because I won't fall in love with you. There are plenty of women who would marry you for money without catching feelings. Nathan studied her for a long moment, his green eyes unreadable. Maybe I wanted someone who would challenge me instead of just agreeing with everything I say. Careful what you wish for. His smile was quick and genuine, transforming his entire face. I'm beginning to realize that. After he left, Zara sat on the enormous bed and looked around her new room. Everything was perfect, elegant, expensive. It was also lonely as hell. She thought about her tiny apartment with its thin walls and noisy neighbors. She'd complained about it plenty, but at least it had felt like home. This place felt like a beautiful prison, and Nathan Sterling was both her cellmate and her warden. But when she looked out the window at the gardens bathed in evening light, when she thought about the $5 million that would keep the community center running for years, she knew she'd made the right choice, even if it felt completely wrong. 3 weeks into their marriage, Zara had learned several things about Nathan Sterling. He drank his coffee black and strong enough to wake the dead. He worked 16-hour days and took phone calls at all hours. He was fluent in 4 languages and could discuss everything from quantum physics to Renaissance art. He was also the loneliest person she'd ever met. Tonight was their first major social event, a charity gala for children's hospitals. Alina had helped Zara get ready, fussing over her hair and makeup like she was preparing a real bride for her wedding day. You look beautiful, dear, Alina said, stepping back to admire her work. Zara barely recognized herself in the mirror. The midnight blue dress Alina had selected hugged her curves perfectly, and the diamond necklace Nathan had given her caught the light with every breath. Her hair was swept up in an elegant style that made her neck look longer, more graceful. I feel like I'm playing dress-up, Zara admitted. Nonsense, you look like you belong in that dress. Alina's eyes twinkled. Mister. Nathan's going to swallow his tongue when he sees you. Alina, this isn't a real marriage, we're just nothing. Alina waved her hand dismissively. I've been watching that boy for years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. How does he look at me? Like he's trying to solve a puzzle that keeps changing on him. Before Zara could ask what that meant, Nathan appeared in the doorway. He was wearing a black tuxedo that fit him like it had been painted on, and his hair was styled back from his face. When he saw her, he went completely still. Will I do? Zara asked, suddenly self-conscious. Nathan's gaze traveled from her face down to her feet and back up again, slow and thorough. You look, he cleared his throat. You look perfect. The way he said it made her stomach flutter. Alina beamed like a proud mother. The car's waiting, Nathan said, extending his arm to Zara. The gala was held at the grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel, a glittering affair with hundreds of guests in evening wear. Zara had never seen so many diamonds in one place or so many people who looked like they'd stepped out of magazines. Nervous, Nathan murmured as they approached the entrance. Terrified, Zara admitted. Just remember your missus. Nathan Sterling now, act like you belong here. What if I don't? Nathan stopped walking and turned to face her. You do belong here, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The conviction in his voice surprised her. Before she could respond, they were swept into the crowd of guests, and the performance began. Nathan was a natural at this kind of event. He moved through the crowd with easy confidence, introducing Zara to business partners, socialites, and politicians. His hand never left the small of her back, a warm, steady presence that helped calm her nerves. Nathan, there you are. A woman in a red dress that probably cost more than a car glided toward them. She was beautiful in that polished, perfect way that suggested expensive maintenance, with platinum blonde hair and lips that had never met a meal they couldn't skip. Vivian, Nathan said, his voice carefully neutral. And you must be the famous wife I've been hearing so much about. Vivian's smile was sharp as glass as she looked Zara up and down. How interesting. Zara, this is Vivian Pierce, Nathan said. Vivian, my wife Zara. Vivian extended a perfectly manicured hand. Charmed, I'm sure. I was just telling Caroline Morrison how surprising it was that Nathan settled down, and so suddenly. One day he's confirmed bachelor, the next he's married to. She paused, letting her gaze rake over Zara again. Well, someone none of us have ever heard of. I'm not much for society pages, Zara said evenly. No, I imagine you wouldn't be. Vivian's laugh was like breaking crystal. Tell me, how did you two meet? It must be quite a story. Zara felt Nathan tense beside her. They'd prepared for this question, but suddenly her mind went blank. At a coffee shop, Nathan said smoothly. Zara was reading Proust, and I was intrigued by a woman who could tackle French literature before noon. How romantic, Vivian purred, though her tone suggested she found it anything but. And what do you do, Zara, besides read French novels, of course? I work with children, Zara said, finding her voice. Oh, how lovely, a teacher. I run a community center. Vivian's eyebrows rose slightly. A community center. How's noble of you? The word noble sounded like an insult coming from her lips. Zara felt her temper starting to flare, but Nathan's hand pressed gently against her back, steadying her. If you'll excuse us, Vivian, Nathan said, I promised Zara a dance. He guided Zara onto the dance floor before Vivian could respond. The orchestra was playing something slow and romantic, and Nathan pulled Zara into his arms with practiced ease. Sorry about that, he murmured as they began to move. Vivian can be a total witch. Nathan's laugh was genuine. I was going to say challenging, but your description works too. Ex-girlfriend. Something like that. Nathan's hand was warm on her waist, and they moved together surprisingly well. You handled her perfectly. I wanted to throw my drink at her. I would have paid money to see that. Zara looked up at him, surprised by the humor in his voice. You would have been mortified. Maybe. Or maybe I would have been proud of my wife for standing up for herself. The way he said "my wife" made something warm unfurl in Zara's chest. They danced in comfortable silence for a moment, and Zara found herself relaxing into his embrace. Nathan was a good dancer, confident and smooth, making her feel graceful even though she'd only learned to waltz from YouTube videos. You're full of surprises, she said. How so? Dancing lessons, I'm guessing. Along with the 4 languages and the art history degree. My grandfather insisted on a well-rounded education. Nathan's expression darkened slightly. He had very specific ideas about what a sterling should know. Before Zara could ask what he meant, a commotion near the entrance caught their attention. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, was standing in the middle of the ballroom looking completely lost. She was wearing a pink dress that suggested she belonged to one of the guests, but she was alone and starting to cry. Nathan immediately stopped dancing. Excuse me, he said, and before Zara could respond, he was walking toward the little girl. Zara watched in amazement as Nathan knelt down to the child's level, his voice gentle and reassuring. The little girl looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, and Nathan smiled, not his usual controlled smile, but something warm and genuine. What's your name, sweetheart? Nathan asked. Emma, the little girl hiccuped. Hi Emma, I'm Nathan. Can you tell me who you came here with tonight? My mommy and daddy, but I got lost looking for the bathroom. Nathan glanced around the crowded ballroom, then back at Emma. Well, we can't have that, can we? How about we find them together? He offered Emma his hand, and she took it without hesitation. Something about the sight of this powerful, intimidating man holding a tiny hand with such care made Zara's throat tight with emotion. Nathan led Emma through the crowd, asking her questions about her parents, what they looked like, what her daddy did for work. Within minutes, they'd found a frantic couple near the silent auction tables. Mommy, Emma ran to a woman in a green dress who immediately swept her up in a hug. Oh my God, Emma, we were so worried. The woman's voice was thick with relief. This man helped me, Emma said, pointing at Nathan. He's really nice. The woman looked at Nathan with tears in her eyes. Thank you so much, I don't know how to repay you. No need, Nathan said simply. I'm just glad she's safe. As the family walked away, Emma turned back and waved at Nathan, who waved back with a smile that transformed his entire face. Zara felt something shift inside her chest, like a door opening that she hadn't even known was closed. This was the real Nathan, not the cold businessman or the arrogant billionaire, but someone who would drop everything to help a lost child. That was beautiful, she said when he returned to her side. Nathan's mask slipped back into place. It was nothing. No, it wasn't nothing. You were wonderful with her. I like kids, he said it like it was a confession. Do you want children of your own someday? Nathan's expression shuddered completely. No, children deserve better than what I have to offer. What do you mean? I mean I'm not father material, Zara. I'm too much like my own father and he was. Nathan stopped, shaking his head. We should get back to the party. But Zara had caught the pain in his voice, the way his jaw tightened when he mentioned his father. Another piece of the puzzle that was Nathan Sterling, and this one made her heart ache. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of conversations and introductions. Nathan was charming and attentive, playing the role of devoted husband perfectly. He kept his hand on her back or her arm, leaned in to whisper comments in her ear that made her laugh, and looked at her like she was the only woman in the room. It was all an act, she reminded herself, but it was a very convincing act. On the drive home, they sat in comfortable silence. Nathan had loosened his bow tie and rolled up his sleeves, and in the dim light of the car he looked younger somehow, more approachable. Thank you, Zara said as they pulled into the driveway. For what? For tonight, for making it easy for me, for being, she searched for the right word, kind. Nathan looked at her, something unreadable in his expression. You made it easy too. You were perfect tonight. Even when I wanted to dump champagne on Vivian's head. Especially then, Nathan's smile was soft in the darkness. Good night, Zara. Good night. As Zara got ready for bed, she found herself thinking about the way Nathan had looked kneeling beside Emma, the gentleness in his voice, the pain that had flashed across his face when he'd mentioned his father. Alina was right, Nathan Sterling was a puzzle, and every piece she discovered made her want to find more. The problem was, she was starting to care about solving it, and caring about Nathan Sterling was definitely not part of their business arrangement. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Zara spent her mornings at the community center, working with the kids and helping plan the renovations that Nathan's money had made possible. The afternoons were hers to explore the massive house and grounds, or to sit in the library reading books from Nathan's extensive collection. Evenings were for Nathan. He usually arrived home around 8, looking tired but trying to hide it. They'd eat dinner together, Alina insisted on it, and somehow those meals had become the best part of Zara's day. Nathan was different when it was just the two of them, less guarded, more willing to let glimpses of his real self show through. Tonight he was later than usual. Zara had already eaten and was curled up in the library with a book when she heard his car in the driveway. She found him in the kitchen, tie loosened, jacket slung over a chair, heating up the plate Alina had left for him. Long day, she asked. Nathan looked up and she saw exhaustion in every line of his face. Merger fell through, 6 months of work down the drain. I'm sorry. It happens. He took a bite of Alina's famous lasagna and closed his eyes with something like relief. How was your day? Good, we finished painting the main room at the center. The kids are so excited about the new computer lab. Something in Nathan's expression shifted. You're happy there. Very happy. Thank you for making it possible. Nathan nodded and continued eating. They sat in comfortable silence until he finished his meal. Want to see something? Nathan asked suddenly. Zara looked up from her book. What? Come on. He stood and headed for the door, and after a moment's hesitation, Zara followed him. Nathan led her through the house to a wing she'd never explored, down a hallway lined with family portraits. He stopped in front of a door she'd assumed was another closet and pulled out a key. My grandfather's study, he said, unlocking the door. I haven't been in here since he died. The room was like stepping back in time. Dark wood paneling, leather-bound books, and a massive desk that dominated the space. Everything was covered in a thin layer of dust, but Zara could see it had once been magnificent. He was an impressive man, Nathan said, running his finger along the edge of the desk. Built Sterling Industries from nothing, demanded excellence in everything. You miss him. Every day, Nathan walked to the window looking out at the gardens. He was more of a father to me than my actual father ever was. What happened to your parents? Nathan was quiet for so long Zara thought he wouldn't answer. Finally, my father was a drunk who cared more about gambling than his family. My mother left when I was 10, couldn't handle the dysfunction anymore. Can't say I blamed her. Nathan, Zara's heart ached for the little boy he'd been. My grandfather took me in, gave me everything I needed. Education, discipline, purpose. He taught me that emotions were weakness, that business was the only thing that mattered. That people would always let you down, but success was something you could control. Is that what you really believe? Nathan turned to look at her, his green eyes shadowed. It's what I've always believed, until... Until what? Until lately. He moved away from the window, closer to where she stood. You're changing things, Zara, making me question things I thought I knew. The air between them felt charged, electric. Zara's pulse quickened as Nathan stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his green eyes. This is dangerous, she whispered. I know. We agreed this was just business. I know that too. But neither of them moved away. Nathan's hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek with devastating gentleness. Zara, he said, and her name sounded different in his voice. Softer, more precious. We can't, she said, even as she leaned into his touch. Can't what? This, whatever this is. Nathan's eyes searched her face. What if I don't want it to be just business anymore? The words hung between them like a bridge neither was quite ready to cross. Zara felt herself swaying toward him, drawn by something stronger than logic or self-preservation. Nathan. The sound of Alina calling from downstairs broke the spell. Nathan stepped back, his hand falling away from her face, leaving her feeling cold and bereft. We should go, he said, his voice rough. Yeah. But as they walked back through the house, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted between them. The careful walls they'd built were starting to crumble, and she wasn't sure either of them was strong enough to rebuild them. Later that night, as she lay in her enormous bed staring at the ceiling, Zara replayed the moment in the study over and over. The way Nathan had looked at her like she was something precious he was afraid to break. The way her heart had raced when he'd said her name. She was falling for him. Despite all her promises to herself, despite knowing it was stupid and dangerous and would only end in heartbreak, she was falling for Nathan Sterling. The question was, what was she going to do about it? The revelation came on a Tuesday morning completely by accident. Zara was at the community center, sorting through donations in the storage room, when she found a box of thank you letters addressed to anonymous donor. Curious, she opened one and began reading. Dear anonymous donor, thank you for paying for my son's cancer treatment. Because of your generosity, Tommy is now in remission and has a chance at a normal life. We can never repay you, but we will never forget your kindness. With love and gratitude, the Martinez family. Zara's hands shook as she opened another letter and another. Stories of families saved from bankruptcy, children who received life-saving surgeries, elderly people whose homes were saved from foreclosure. All from the same anonymous donor, all with the same handwriting on the envelopes, Nathan's handwriting. Miss Zara, Carlos appeared in the doorway, backpack slung over his shoulder. You okay? You look funny. I'm fine, sweetie. Zara quickly closed the box, her mind reeling, just thinking about grown-up things. Is it about the new playground? My mom says we might get swings that go really high. Maybe, Zara managed, forcing a smile. Go start your homework, I'll be out in a minute. After Carlos left, Zara sat in the storage room staring at the box of letters. How long had Nathan been doing this? How many people had he helped without ever asking for recognition or thanks? Her phone buzzed with a text from Nathan, "Dinner canceled tonight. Working late. Don't wait up." Instead of texting back, Zara made a decision. She locked up the community center and drove to Sterling Tower. The building was mostly empty at 8 p.m., but Nathan's secretary waved her through to the executive floor. She found him in his office, surrounded by papers, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Zara," he looked up surprised. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk." Nathan's expression became guarded. "About what?" Zara closed the door and walked to his desk. "About the anonymous donations, about the families you've been helping for years, about the fact that you've been lying to me." Nathan went very still. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The Martinez family, the Johnsons, the Patel family, should I go on?" Nathan's jaw tightened. "How did you find out?" "Does it matter? Nathan, you've been secretly helping people for years." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because it's not important." "Not important?" Zara's voice rose. "You've saved lives, families, how is that not important?" Nathan stood up, moving to the window that overlooked the city. "Because it doesn't change anything. I'm still the same person." "No, you're not." Zara walked to stand beside him. "You're not the cold, heartless businessman you pretend to be. You're someone who cares deeply about people, who helps them without wanting anything in return." "Don't," Nathan's voice was sharp, "don't make me into something I'm not." "Then tell me who you really are." Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his reflection ghostly in the glass. "I'm someone who learned early that caring about people is dangerous, that the more you care, the more it hurts when they leave. So you help them anonymously, you keep yourself safe by keeping your distance. It's easier that way." "Easier maybe. But also lonelier." Nathan turned to look at her, and Zara saw something raw and vulnerable in his expression. "You don't understand, Zara. Everyone I've ever cared about has left. My mother, my father in his own way. Even my grandfather, eventually." "Your grandfather didn't choose to leave." "No, but he still left, and it still hurt." Zara's heart ached for him. "So you decided never to let anyone close enough to hurt you again." "It's worked so far." "Has it?" "Because you seem pretty miserable to me." Nathan's laugh was bitter. "Thanks for the pep talk." "I'm serious, Nathan. You're one of the most powerful men in the city, but you're also one of the loneliest. When was the last time you had a real conversation with someone? When was the last time you laughed because something was actually funny, not because it was expected?" "I laugh with you." The words slipped out before Nathan could stop them, and Zara felt her breath catch. "Do you?" "Yes," Nathan said quietly, "I do." They stood there in the golden light of his office, the city spread out below them like a sea of stars. Zara could see the exact moment Nathan's walls came down, could see the fear and longing in his eyes. "I'm scared," he said, and the admission seemed to surprise him as much as it did her. "Of what?" "Of this, of you, of the way you make me feel." "How do I make you feel?" Nathan stepped closer, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his face, the vulnerability he usually kept hidden. "Like maybe I don't have to be alone anymore." Zara's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Nathan. I know this wasn't part of the deal. I know you signed up for a business arrangement, not whatever this is becoming." "What is this becoming?" Nathan's hand came up to cup her face, just like it had in his grandfather's study. "I don't know, but I know I don't want to stop finding out." This time when he leaned down to kiss her, Zara didn't pull away. His lips were soft against hers, gentle and questioning, like he was asking permission. She gave it, kissing him back with a tenderness that surprised them both. When they broke apart, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "This is crazy," Zara whispered. "Completely insane," Nathan agreed. "We're going to get hurt." "Probably. We should stop." "We should." But neither of them moved away. They stood there in the quiet of his office, holding each other like they were afraid to let go. "Nathan. Ahem. For what it's worth, I think you're an incredible man. Not because of your money or your success, but because of who you are when you think no one is watching." Nathan's arms tightened around her. You see too much. Maybe you don't see enough. They stayed like that until the city lights began to blur together, until the weight of what was happening between them became too much to ignore. Finally, Nathan stepped back, his businessman's mask sliding back into place. I should take you home. Okay. But as they rode the elevator down to the parking garage, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The careful boundaries of their arrangement had crumbled and there was no going back. The question was, where did they go from here? The kiss changed everything and nothing at all. Over the next few days, Nathan was different with Zara, more attentive, gentler, as if he was seeing her for the first time. But he was also more distant, as if the vulnerability he'd shown in his office scared him. Zara caught him watching her sometimes, his expression unreadable, but whenever she tried to talk about what had happened between them, he found reasons to be somewhere else. It was maddening. Friday night, they attended a gallery opening for a local artist. Zara wore a black dress that Alina had selected, and Nathan looked devastatingly handsome in a dark suit. They played their roles perfectly, the devoted couple, touching and laughing and looking at each other like they shared wonderful secrets. You're very good at this, Zara murmured as they stood in front of a painting that looked like someone had thrown paint at a canvas and called it art. At what? Pretending to be in love with me. Nathan's hand tightened on her waist. Who says I'm pretending? The words sent heat racing through her veins, but before she could respond, they were interrupted by a photographer wanting pictures of the lovely couple. Nathan's arm came around her, pulling her close, and Zara tried to ignore how right it felt to be pressed against his side. Beautiful, the photographer said, snapping away. You two are so natural together. How long have you been married? 2 months, Nathan said, his voice warm with what sounded like genuine affection. Still newlyweds, that explains the glow. You can always tell when people are really in love. Zara's cheeks burned, but Nathan just smiled and pressed a kiss to her temple. I'm a lucky man, he said, and there was something in his voice that made her wonder if he was still acting. Later in the car on the way home, the silence stretched between them like a live wire. You were amazing tonight, Nathan said finally. So were you, almost too good. What's that supposed to mean? Zara turned to look at him, studying his profile in the passing streetlights. Sometimes I can't tell if you're playing a role or if you mean it. Nathan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What if I told you I mean it? Do you? I'm starting to think I do. The admission hung between them, heavy with possibility and danger. Zara felt her heart skip but also felt a stab of fear. This was exactly what she'd promised herself wouldn't happen. Nathan. I know this isn't what we agreed to. I know it's complicated. It's not just complicated, it's impossible. In 10 months we'll get divorced and go back to our separate lives. What's the point of pretending this could be something real? Nathan pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine, but didn't get out of the car. What if we didn't get divorced? Zara's breath caught. What? What if we made this real? What if we tried to see where this goes? You don't mean that. I do, Nathan turned to face her, his green eyes intense in the darkness. I know it's crazy. I know I'm the last person who should be talking about real relationships, but something's happening here, Zara, something I've never felt before. Nathan, you don't believe in love. You told me so. Maybe I was wrong, maybe I just hadn't met the right person yet. The words should have made her happy, instead they terrified her. This is happening too fast. Is it? Or are we just finally being honest about something that's been building since the day we met? Zara thought about their wedding day, the way Nathan had looked at her when he slipped the ring on her finger. She thought about the nights they'd spent talking over dinner, the way he'd made her laugh despite herself. She thought about the box of thank you letters, the little girl at the gala, the kiss in his office that had turned her world upside down. I'm scared, she admitted. So am I. Nathan reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. But maybe we could be scared together. What if it doesn't work out? What if we try this and it crashes and burns? Then at least we'll know we tried. Isn't that better than spending the rest of our lives wondering what might have been? Zara looked down at their joined hands, at the diamond ring that caught the light from the porch lamp. I don't want to be just another woman who fell for your money and charm. You're not. You're the only woman who's ever seen past all of that to who I really am. How do you know? Nathan lifted their joined hands to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to her knuckles. Because you're the only one who's ever made me want to be better than I am. The simple words undid her. All her careful defenses crumbled, and she found herself leaning toward him, drawn by something stronger than logic or self-preservation. Nathan. I love you, he said, the words quiet but clear. I know it's too soon and too complicated and probably the stupidest thing I've ever said, but I love you, Zara. I love your strength and your compassion and the way you see the world. I love that you challenge me and make me laugh and make me want to be worthy of you. Tears pricked Zara's eyes. You can't just say things like that and expect. I'm not expecting anything, I'm just telling you how I feel. And what am I supposed to do with that information? Nathan's smile was soft and a little sad. Whatever you want. But I needed you to know. They sat in the car for a long moment, the weight of his confession settling between them like a third presence. Finally, Zara spoke. I love you too. The words came out as barely a whisper, but Nathan heard them. His sharp intake of breath was audible in the quiet car. Zara. I love you, she said again, stronger this time. I didn't want to, I tried not to, but I love you, Nathan Sterling, and I have no idea what we're supposed to do about it. Nathan cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she didn't realize she'd shed. We figure it out together. Promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't hurt me. I know you can't guarantee that, but promise me you'll try. Nathan's eyes were serious as he looked at her. I promise I'll try. And I promise I'll never lie to you. Okay. Okay. Okay, let's figure it out together. Nathan's smile was like sunrise, transforming his entire face. I love you, he said again, like he couldn't quite believe he was allowed to say it. I love you too. This time when he kissed her, it was different. Not the gentle, questioning kiss from his office, but something deeper, more certain. A promise and a beginning all at once. When they finally broke apart, Zara was breathing hard. We should go inside, Nathan said, his voice rough. We should. But they stayed in the car for another few minutes, holding each other and trying to process the magnitude of what had just happened. They'd started this as a business arrangement, two people using each other to get what they needed. Now they were something else entirely. And for the first time since this whole crazy journey had begun, Zara was actually looking forward to finding out what came next. 2 weeks later, Zara was floating on a cloud of happiness that seemed too good to be true. Nathan had been different since their confession, more open, more affectionate, more like the man she'd glimpsed behind his careful mask. They'd started sleeping in the same bed, though they hadn't made love yet. Nathan seemed to be taking things slow, as if he was afraid of rushing her or breaking the fragile new thing between them. Zara was working in the community center's garden when Elena appeared with a troubled expression. Mrs. Sterling, there's someone here to see you. The woman waiting in the main room was everything Zara wasn't. Tall, elegant, with perfect blonde hair and a designer outfit that probably cost more than Zara's old car. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread titled, How to Marry a Billionaire. You must be Zara, the woman said, extending a manicured hand. I'm Victoria Hastings. I believe you know my fiancé. Your fiancé. Nathan Sterling, though I suppose you call him your husband. Victoria's smile was sharp as a blade. This is awkward. Zara felt the world tilt on its axis. I'm sorry, but I think there's been a mistake. Nathan isn't engaged to anyone. Oh, but he is. Has been for 3 years, actually. We were planning to announce it after he secured his grandfather's inheritance. Victoria opened her purse and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring that made Zara's look modest by comparison. He gave me this the night before he married you. That's impossible. Is it? Think about it, Zara. A billionaire suddenly needing a wife for exactly 1 year. A contract marriage with a woman from a completely different world. It's almost like he needed a temporary wife to fulfill the terms of his inheritance, while keeping his real relationship secret. Zara's legs felt weak. She sank into one of the plastic chairs, her mind racing. Nathan wouldn't do that. Wouldn't he? Nathan Sterling is a businessman above all else. He saw an opportunity, help your little community center while securing his billions, and he took it. The fact that you fell for him was just an unexpected complication. You're lying. Victoria sat down across from her, her expression almost pitying. Am I? When did he first tell you he loved you? 2 weeks ago. Right around the time his lawyers confirmed the inheritance was secure. Zara's blood turned to ice. The timing was exactly right. He needed to keep you happy for a few more months, Victoria continued. Make sure you didn't do anything to jeopardize the arrangement. Telling you he loved you was just good business sense. I don't believe you. Call him then. Ask him about the Hamptons house we bought together last summer. Ask him about our dinner 3 nights ago, when he assured me this whole charade would be over soon. Zara's phone felt heavy in her hands, but she found Nathan's number and dialed. It went straight to voicemail. Nathan Sterling's phone. Please leave a message. Nathan, it's me. Call me back immediately. We need to talk. Victoria checked her watch. He's probably in the meeting with the inheritance lawyers. Should be done soon. Why are you telling me this? Why now? Because I'm tired of waiting. Nathan was supposed to end this weeks ago, but he's been dragging his feet. I think your little feelings have complicated things for him. He's always been too soft-hearted for his own good. Soft-hearted, we're talking about the same Nathan Sterling. The man I fell in love with, yes. He pretends to be cold and ruthless, but underneath he's just a wounded little boy who's afraid of being abandoned again. I'm sure he's convinced himself that what he feels for you is real. And you don't think it is. Victoria's laugh was like breaking glass. I think Nathan Sterling is incapable of loving anyone more than he loves his empire. And I think you're about to find that out the hard way. Zara's phone buzzed. A text from Nathan, working late again, don't wait up, love you. The casual way he signed off with love you now seemed calculated, practiced. How many times had he texted those words while sitting across from Victoria, planning their future together? I should go, Victoria said, standing. I just thought you deserved to know the truth before you got in any deeper. Nathan will probably try to convince you I'm lying, but ask yourself this. In all your conversations, has he ever mentioned his future plans? Has he ever talked about what happens after the divorce? Zara's throat was tight. He said maybe we wouldn't get divorced. He said maybe, how romantic. Victoria headed for the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I think his feelings for you are real, but Nathan's feelings were never the issue. The issue is that he'll choose his inheritance over you every single time. He's too much his grandfather's boy to do anything else. After Victoria left, Zara sat in the empty community center, surrounded by the laughter of children playing in the renovated space. Everything Nathan's money had made possible suddenly felt tainted, like evidence of her own stupidity. She thought about the past few weeks, replaying every conversation, every kiss, every whispered "I love you." Had it all been an act? A performance designed to keep her compliant until the inheritance was secure. Her phone rang. Nathan. Zara, I got your message. What's wrong? Victoria Hastings came to see me. The silence on the other end was deafening. Nathan. I can explain. And just like that, Zara knew Victoria had been telling the truth. If there had been nothing to explain, Nathan would have said so immediately. He wouldn't have gone silent like a man who'd been caught. Can you? Because I'd really like to hear how you explain being engaged to another woman while telling me you love me. Zara, please let me come to you. We need to talk face to face. Answer the question, Nathan. Are you engaged to Victoria Hastings? Another pause. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's a yes or no question. Yes, but... Zara hung up. She sat there staring at her phone, feeling like she'd just been hit by a truck. The ring on her finger felt heavy, foreign, like it belonged to someone else, which she supposed it did. Her phone rang again, and again, and again. She turned it off and walked out of the community center, leaving behind the laughter and the hope and the life that Nathan's money had built. She had some thinking to do. Zara was gone. Nathan stood in the doorway of her empty bedroom, his heart hammering against his ribs like a caged bird. The closet was empty, the drawers cleared out, the bed made with military precision. The only thing she'd left behind was her wedding ring, sitting on the nightstand like an accusation. "When did she leave?" he asked Alina, who was hovering in the hallway with tears in her eyes. "This morning while you were at work. She took just 2 suitcases and that old car of hers. Wouldn't tell me where she was going, just said to give you this." Alina handed him an envelope with his name written in Zara's careful handwriting. Nathan's hands shook as he opened it. "Nathan, I know you're probably going to try to find me, so I'm asking you not to. I need time to think, and I can't do that with you trying to explain away what I heard today. I understand why you didn't tell me about Victoria. I understand that your engagement to her was probably as much of a business arrangement as our marriage. But I can't understand why you told me you loved me when you knew this would all end. Maybe you do love me. Maybe what we had was real, at least for you. But it doesn't matter because you made your choice a long time ago. You chose your inheritance, your empire, your grandfather's legacy. You chose everything except me. I won't stand in the way of your happiness. I won't fight for a man who's already decided I'm not worth fighting for. Don't look for me, don't try to explain, just let me go. Zara. P.S. I'll honor the contract. I won't do anything to jeopardize your inheritance, but I won't pretend to be your wife anymore either." Nathan read the letter 3 times before the words sank in. Then he was moving, running down the stairs, grabbing his car keys, his phone, his wallet. He had to find her, he had to explain, he had to tell her she was worth more than all of it. But Zara was smart and she knew him well enough to anticipate his moves. She wasn't at her old apartment. The landlord said she'd given up the lease months ago. She wasn't at the community center, though the staff there looked at him with expressions that ranged from disappointed to outright hostile. Word had gotten around fast. "She doesn't want to see you," Carlos's mother told him when he found her at the grocery store. "You hurt her." "I know I did, but I love her. I need to make this right." The woman looked at him with the kind of expression reserved for particularly slow children. "Then you should have thought of that before you lied to her." Nathan spent 3 days searching, calling everyone he could think of, hiring private investigators. Nothing. Zara had disappeared as completely as if she'd never existed. On the 4th day, he got a call from his lawyer. "The inheritance has been finalized," Richard Kellerman said. "Congratulations, Nathan. You're now worth approximately $8 billion. I don't care about the money." "I'm sorry, what did you say? The connection must be bad." "I said I don't care about the money, Richard. I need you to do something for me." "Of course. What do you need?" "I need you to start divorce proceedings." Silence. Then, "Nathan, are you feeling all right? You've spent the last year securing this inheritance. Why would you want to file for divorce now?" "Because I'm in love with my wife, and she thinks I chose money over her. I need to prove she's wrong." "But if you divorce before the year is up, I lose everything, I know." Nathan stared out his office window at the city he'd once thought he owned. "Draw up the papers, Richard. I want them filed today." "Nathan, think about this. $8 billion. Means nothing without her." Nathan hung up and immediately called Victoria. She answered on the first ring like she'd been waiting for his call. "Nathan. I heard about the inheritance. Congratulations, darling. We need to talk." "Of course. Shall I come to your office, or would you prefer somewhere more private?" "Victoria, I'm ending our engagement." Another silence, longer this time. "I beg your pardon. I'm in love with Zara. I want to make my marriage real." Victoria's laugh was sharp and bitter. "Nathan, be reasonable. Your little infatuation was charming, but surely you're not going to throw away everything for some community center volunteer." "That's exactly what I'm going to do." "You can't be serious." "I won't let you ruin your life over some passing fancy." "It's not a fancy, Victoria, it's love, something you and I have never had." "Love?" Victoria's voice turned venomous. "Love is a luxury, Nathan. We have compatibility, shared goals, mutual respect. That's worth so much more than whatever you think you feel for that woman. You're right, Nathan said quietly. What I feel for Zara is worth so much more. It's worth everything. He hung up on Victoria's protests and called his assistant. Cancel all my appointments for the rest of the week. Actually, cancel everything for the next month. Sir, I'm going to find my wife. The search took 2 weeks. Nathan followed leads across 3 states, hired the best investigators money could buy, called in favors from people he'd never asked for help before. He was beginning to think Zara had vanished into thin air when he got a call from an unexpected source. Mr. Sterling, this is Mrs. Garcia from the community center. Nathan's heart leaped. Is Zara there? No, but I think I know where she might be. She mentioned once that when things got bad, she used to go to her grandmother's old cabin in the mountains. Said it was the only place she felt truly safe. Where? Mrs. Garcia gave him directions to a small town 3 hours north of the city. Mr. Sterling, when you find her, be gentle. She's hurting more than she's letting on. Nathan drove through the night, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. The cabin was exactly where Mrs. Garcia had said it would be, a small, weathered building tucked between pine trees with smoke curling from the chimney. Zara's beat-up car was parked in the driveway. Nathan sat in his car for a moment, trying to calm his racing heart. Through the window, he could see her moving around inside, and the relief nearly brought him to his knees. She was here. She was safe. Now he just had to convince her to listen to him. He walked to the front door and knocked. The movement inside stopped. Zara, it's me. Go away, Nathan. I filed for divorce. Silence. Then the door opened a crack, and he could see one of her beautiful brown eyes looking at him. What? I filed for divorce papers 4 days ago. I gave up the inheritance. The door opened wider, and Nathan saw Zara's face for the first time in 2 weeks. She looked tired, thinner, like she hadn't been sleeping or eating enough. You're lying. I'm not. Nathan pulled out his phone and showed her the legal documents his lawyer had sent. $8 billion, Zara, gone. Because I'd rather have you than all the money in the world. Zara stared at the papers, then at him. Why would you do that? Because I love you, because you were right. I made my choice a long time ago and it was the wrong choice. Because I'd rather be poor with you than rich without you. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. Nathan. I know I hurt you. I know I should have told you about Victoria from the beginning. But I was scared that if you knew how complicated everything was, you'd run. And then when I started falling for you, I was scared to tell you because I thought it would make everything worse. It did make everything worse. I know. But Zara, everything I told you was true. I love you. I want to spend my life with you, not because of some contract or some inheritance, but because you make me want to be better than I am. Zara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. What about Victoria? I ended it, should have ended it years ago, honestly. What Victoria and I had wasn't love, it was just convenient, safe. You're the first person who's ever made me want to risk everything. And you did. You risked everything. Nathan stepped closer, hope blooming in his chest when she didn't back away. I did, because you're worth everything, Zara. You're worth more than all the money and all the success and all the safety I thought I needed. What about your grandfather's legacy? Your empires. I'll build something new, something better, something that would make him proud for the right reasons. Zara looked at him for a long moment, searching his face. How do I know you won't change your mind? How do I know you won't wake up tomorrow and regret giving up everything for me? Nathan cupped her face in his hands, the way he had that night in his office when everything started to change. Because you're not everything I'm giving up, Zara, you're everything I'm choosing. There's a difference. Show me the papers, she said quietly. Nathan handed her his phone, and she scrolled through the divorce documents, the legal papers declaring his forfeiture of the inheritance, the official end of his engagement to Victoria. You really did it, she whispered. I really did. You're insane. Completely crazy, Nathan agreed. Crazy in love with you. Zara looked up at him, and for the first time in 2 weeks she smiled. I love you too. I tried to stop, but I couldn't. Thank God, Nathan said and kissed her. This kiss was different from all the others, desperate and relieved and full of promises they both intended to keep. When they broke apart, they were both crying. So what happens now? Zara asked. Now we figure out how to build a life together, a real life, not some contract arrangement. We'll probably fight sometimes. Probably. And we'll have to figure out how to make money, since you just gave away $8 billion. Nathan laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. I've got some ideas about that, but first I have a question for you. What? Nathan dropped to one knee right there on the cabin's front porch, pulling out a simple gold band he'd bought on the drive-up. Zara Thompson, will you marry me? For real this time. No contracts, no time limits, just two people who love each other promising to figure out the rest as they go. Zara looked down at him, this powerful man kneeling in the dirt because he'd chosen love over everything else, and her heart felt like it might burst from happiness. Yes, she said, yes, I'll marry you. Nathan slipped the simple ring onto her finger, right next to the space where her wedding ring used to be. It wasn't worth millions like the first ring he'd given her, but it was worth something more precious. It was worth everything they'd both risked to be together. 6 months later, Zara stood in the community center's main room, watching Nathan teach Carlos how to play chess. It was a Saturday morning, and the renovated space was full of families enjoying the weekend programming that Nathan's foundation funded. Your move, Mr. Nathan, Carlos said, his 7-year-old face screwed up in concentration. Take your time, Nathan said, leaning back in his chair. Chess is about thinking 3 moves ahead. Is that how you got so rich? Nathan laughed, the sound warm and genuine, something like that. Though being rich isn't the most important thing, you know. What is? Nathan glanced over at Zara, his green eyes soft with love. Being happy, being with people you care about. Making a difference in the world. Did you make a difference? I'm trying to, what do you think? Carlos looked around the bustling community center, then back at Nathan. I think you did good, Mr. Nathan. Thanks, buddy. Now about that chess move. Zara smiled and walked over to Alina, who was organizing art supplies for the afternoon painting class. He's good with children, Alina observed, watching Nathan patiently explain chess strategy to Carlos. He is better than he thinks he is. Any thoughts about giving him some children of his own? Zara blushed. Alina. I'm just saying you're not getting any younger, and that man would be a wonderful father. We'll see, Zara said, but she couldn't help smiling. She and Nathan had talked about children, about the future, about all the things they wanted to build together. They had time to figure it out. Mrs. Sterling. Zara turned to find a reporter from the local paper, camera in hand. Yes. I was wondering if I could ask you a few questions about the Sterling Foundation. The work you're doing here is remarkable. Of course. As Zara talked to the reporter about their programs and plans, she caught Nathan watching her with an expression of pure pride. He'd thrown himself into their foundation work with the same intensity he'd once brought to his business empire. And together, they'd already helped dozens of families and funded programs in 5 different communities. They were making a real difference, together. One more question, the reporter said. There are rumors that your husband gave up a substantial inheritance to be with you. Any truth to that? Zara glanced at Nathan, who just smiled and nodded. My husband made the choice that was right for him, she said carefully. We both believe that love is worth more than money. And you're happy. Incredibly happy. After the reporter left, Nathan appeared at her side, sliding his arms around her waist from behind. How'd I do with the press? She asked, leaning back against his chest. Perfect, as always, though you could have mentioned that your devastatingly handsome husband is also incredibly modest. Devastatingly handsome and incredibly modest. That seems contradictory. I'm a man of many contradictions. Zara turned in his arms, looking up at the man who'd given up everything to be with her. Any regrets? About what? The money, the inheritance. The life you could have had. Nathan's smile was soft and sure. Not a single one. This is the life I want, Zara. You are the life I want. Even when I leave my books all over the house. Especially then. Even when I cry at commercials. It's one of my favorite things about you. Even when I steal your coffee in the morning. I buy the expensive stuff just so you'll steal it. Zara laughed and stood on her tiptoes to kiss him. I love you, Nathan Sterling. I love you too, Mrs. Sterling, forever and always. Forever and always, she agreed. As they stood there in the middle of the community center, surrounded by the laughter of children and the warmth of families, Zara thought about how differently her life had turned out than she'd ever imagined. A year ago, she'd been struggling to save her grandmother's legacy, desperate and alone. Now she was married to a man who loved her enough to risk everything, doing work that mattered, building something beautiful from the ground up. Hey Zara, Nathan murmured against her ear. Want to get out of here? I have something to show you. What kind of something? Nathan's smile was mysterious, the good kind. He led her outside to where his car was parked. Not the expensive sports car he used to drive, but a practical SUV that was better for hauling supplies to the community center. In the back seat was a basket covered with a blanket. Nathan Sterling, did you pack us a picnic? Maybe Alina might have helped. Where are we going? You'll see. Nathan drove them out of the city, past the suburbs, into the countryside where the leaves were turning gold and red with autumn. Finally, he pulled off the road at a scenic overlook that gave them a view of the entire valley below. It's beautiful, Zara said, getting out of the car. Not as beautiful as you. That was terrible. I know. I'm working on my romantic lines. They spread a blanket on the grass and unpacked Alina's carefully prepared picnic, sandwiches, fruit, chocolate, and a bottle of champagne that made Zara raise an eyebrow. What are we celebrating? Life. Love, the fact that you didn't divorce me when you found out about Victoria. I thought about it. I know, I'm glad you didn't. They ate in comfortable silence, watching the sun move across the sky and cast changing shadows on the valley below. Finally, Nathan pulled out a manila envelope. I have something for you. Another legal document, because the last one worked out so well. Not a legal document. A deed. Zara opened the envelope and stared at the papers inside. Nathan, this is 500 acres. Enough land to build a dozen community centers, a school, maybe even a small hospital. I thought we could create something really special here. A place where families can come for help, where kids can learn and grow, where people like your grandmother's legacy can really flourish. Tears pricked Zara's eyes as she looked at the deed, then at the valley spread out below them. How did you afford this? I thought you gave away all your money. Not all of it. I kept enough to buy this land and fund our foundation for the next 50 years. I figured that was more important than being stupidly rich. Nathan. There's one condition, though. What? Nathan got down on one knee again, this time pulling out a different ring. Not the expensive diamond he'd given her for their fake wedding, but a simple band with a small stone that caught the afternoon light. This was my grandmother's ring. My grandfather gave it to her when they got engaged, and she wore it for 60 years. It's not worth much, but... It's perfect, Zara whispered. Zara Thompson Sterling, will you marry me again? Here, on our land, with our friends and family, will you help me build something beautiful that will last longer than both of us? Are you proposing or offering me a business partnership? Both. Always both with you. Zara looked at the ring, at the man holding it, at the valley that would soon be home to their shared dreams. Yes, she said. Yes to all of it. Nathan slipped his grandmother's ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he kissed her as the sun set over their valley, painting everything gold and beautiful. So, Zara said when they finally broke apart, when's the wedding? How about Christmas? Alina's already planning it. Of course she is. She says it's going to be the wedding of the century. As long as it's just us and the people we love, I don't care if we get married in a barn. Actually, Nathan said, grinning, I was thinking more like the community center. Where it all started. Perfect. As they packed up their picnic and headed home, Zara thought about fairy tales and happily ever after. She'd always thought those stories were unrealistic, too good to be true, but maybe she'd been wrong. Maybe sometimes the prince really did give up his kingdom for love. Maybe sometimes the girl from the wrong side of town really did get her happy ending. And maybe, just maybe, the best love stories were the ones that started with a contract but ended with a choice. A choice to love, to trust, to build something beautiful together. A choice they made every single day.